Hi guys. Trying to figure out where exactly to start the whole story. And I don't think it makes sense to start when I was born. That's weird. That's dumb. Um, my story is really about becoming a mom and everything that's kind of entailed. So I figured I'd start with the first time I became a mom. I do have an 8-year old. He's 8.5. Um, He's absolutely wonderful. And his birth is what kind of started the journey of being a mom, but not your stereotypical everyday mom. So, um, going back in high school, I didn't really date a whole lot. And then after graduating, I met my son's dad. We dated for a little bit. Actually, for a lot of it, we dated for probably about 5 years. I graduated in 2007, and my son was born in 2013, specifically in May. Um, my son's dad was probably not the best person, but I have apparently a tendency to see a really good side of people, no matter what. So his dad struggled a lot with mental illness, specifically what I believe was schizoaffective disorder, which is similar to schizophrenia. So he would see things, hear things that weren't there. So pregnancy, dealing with that was hard. He also dealt a lot with substance abuse. Um, Mm, Pretty much your stereotypical stuff. I know occasionally he did do some pretty harder things. I was never present for that. I've never been that kind of a mom. I've never been that kind of a person. And I know he struggled with it. Me being the person that I am, I didn't see it as, oh, he's druggy. It was more of, he's struggling. He needs help. I can help him. So my I guess my character trait that probably is a flaw to some is that I am inherently going to want to help people. So that was my goal. I thought for sure I could help him keep his life on track. That was not the case. Eventually, I did get pregnant. I got pregnant in November of 2012, and the whole pregnancy was, I mean, it was normal, but it was emotionally tumultuous, to say the least. His mom specifically thought that getting pregnant, we weren't married or anything like that. So his mom specifically thought that me being pregnant was bad timing, that, she was going through some stuff in her own marriage with her own husband. And I guess a pregnancy and a grandchild was just not going to fit in for her, unfortunately. Um, but regardless, I was super excited. I know initially I was terrified. I knew my mom was not a big fan of him. She's still not, but none of us are anymore. But I was still excited to be a mom. So throughout my pregnancy, I went to regular appointments. Occasionally, his dad would go with me, but not always. It was kind of inconvenient on his part. So went to appointments as I needed to. I didn't go to any extra appointments. I wasn't high risk or anything. It was just your standard pregnancy. Um, and later on in the pregnancy, it was probably 4 months or so. We lived in an apartment together. And I went home. I was locked out in the rain. He called the cops on me. It was, like I said, tumultuous. So that ended up being pretty stressful on me. Um, Fast forward to May, which is when my son was born. Um, I was working at a daycare at the time. Um, it was a Friday that, we decided to do a spring fling carnival. And my work knew I was pregnant, so they didn't have me doing any kind of like heavy lifting or running around a lot. I remember specifically my job was face paint. So they had me sitting and being safe and just not overdoing it. So I remember that. And then I went home. That was a Friday night. So Saturday morning, I woke up. Um, and I remember things were a little off with pregnancy. There's going to be a lot of TMI. So, forewarning, TMI. When I went that morning, I went to go use the restroom. And when I wiped, there was some pink on the toilet paper. And I I mean, this is my first pregnancy. I don't know what's normal. I don't know what's not. So I immediately called my mom. I said, "Mom, what's going on? What's this?" And she said, sometimes that can be normal. Call the nurse, call the doctor, see what they say. So I did. I called the nurse. They said, okay, if you don't have any other, they said you can come in if you want to come in, but you don't have to. Right now, it's just important to kind of monitor your symptoms. So take it easy. Don't do any kind of strenuous activity. If you go and it gets any redder, or if you feel, significant cramping, anything like that, then definitely come in. Now, mind you, just to kind of set it up, we lived in an apartment in the second floor upstairs. And to get to our apartment, you had to go up a flight of stairs. There's no elevator. So, um, up a flight of stairs. So I said, okay, I'm going to take it easy. I let my mom know I'm going to take it easy. Um, so I decided, it was a Saturday. I didn't have anything to do. I said, I'm going to go to bed. I'm going to just go lay down. I'm going to put my feet up. I'm going to take it easy. And I remember my son's dad asking, are you hungry? Do you want anything? I said, I kind of want some Taco Bell. Terrible idea, but I kind of want some Taco Bell. I said, okay. So we went and got Taco Bell. We sat down, ate. I was fine. And then went to go take a nap. Woke up. I don't remember what time it was, but woke up. I went to the bathroom because Taco Bell does that to you. And when I went to the bathroom, I remember feeling a sort of pressure. When you go to the bathroom, it's very, what you're feeling. And when I went, it was not normal. So I immediately, I kind of held my breath, and I remember reaching down underneath me, and I could feel my amniotic sac. I can feel my son's head. Now, at this point, I am 25 weeks pregnant, so I'm barely over halfway. So I panicked. I called my son's dad into the bathroom, and I was like, "You need to call 911. You need to call somebody. The baby's coming out, and I don't know what to do." So, he calls 911. He talks to them. They're sending an ambulance. They're gonna come take care of it. I told him, I said, "You need to call my mom, let her know." So he calls my mom, and he basically told her the baby fell out. Well, the baby didn't fall out, but I did have a bulging membrane. So, for me, I was, you know, I loved the medical field, so I kind of understood what exactly was going on without being fully aware of what was happening, or why specifically. So he called my mom. He was not exactly the best way of delivering the news, but talked to my mom. My mom, told him you need to call 911. I told her we already have. So she immediately rushed to the hospital. By then, the ambulance had got there. Um, Ambulance people were okay. The woman that was there was fabulous. The guy seemed to be a little bit newer. He was convinced that we were going to have to deliver in the apartment right then and there. I was not having that. So they came in, they checked me, and I was terrified. I was terrified to stand up because I was afraid that the baby was going to come out. So I clenched as much as I could, and I just sat there. I was frozen. I was petrified. Um, and they finally got me up. They took me to the living room, and we had one of the soft ottoman cushions, and they cleared everything off. They laid me down. They checked. They said, "You do have a bulging bag. We can see it, so we need to take you in." At this point, waist down, I got nothing. But when you're a mom and you're having a baby, all dignity aside. So I said, okay, I needed something to go around me. They got me a robe. I think it might have been mine. I don't know. They got me a robe to go over me. They got my son's dad got me a blanket to go over me as well. And then they couldn't get the stretcher up the stairs, so I had to walk down a flight of stairs to get on the stretcher to get in the ambulance. So that was probably the longest staircase of my life. Um, but I did it. I got downstairs, got on the stretcher, got in the ambulance. My son's dad went with us. He decided to ride along. He rode in the front seat, not in the back. I don't know why. And the hospital was literally across the street. Like you could walk there in 10 minutes. So driving, it only took about a minute and a half. They took us through the emergency room. And then I guess people don't go from the emergency room to L&D, so they got lost. The EMTs actually ended up taking me to the heart hospital, cardiac area. So they had to reroute, figure out where they were going. Finally, they got me in L&D. Um, Whenever I got there, I mean, there was so much going on between the hustle and the bustle of people coming in, people sticking IVs, people checking my vitals and everything else. It was a lot. And the stretcher, they put it next to the bed. They had me scoot over. They didn't have wheel locks on the stretcher for whatever reason. Either they didn't have them or they didn't lock them. So moving from the stretcher to the bed, I did nearly hit the floor. Thankfully, somebody caught it in time. Um, they got me in. They had the pediatricians come in, neonatology came in, anesthesiology came in, everybody came in. I had people in my face constantly. And that day, I can tell you, was a blur. It was a lot going on. Um, I remember them checking my cervix. They said I was 5 centimeters dilated, and there's no telling how long I was dilated. Which means I was in active labor. I was going to have this baby pretty soon. The My bag was still intact, so my water hadn't broke or anything like that, but we were just kind of playing the waiting game. So at that point, I was hospitalized and immediately put on complete bed rest. So I could not sit up, I could not turn over, I could not get out of bed. They had to put in a catheter. I was not allowed to go anywhere. Um, so that was on a Saturday. Saturday we got through, and it was a lot. And then Sunday we got through. It was a lot as well. And it was, like I said, dignity goes out the window. So it was a lot of things that um, are not normal, things that you're not aware are things that you're going to have to do. I couldn't get up. Of course, I had to have a catheter. Couldn't go to the bathroom. Um, but I couldn't get up to take shower. So the nurses would come in and they would give me a sponge bath, which I mean, it's at first it's kind of embarrassing. You have to get a sponge bath because you can't get up and get out of bed and go take a shower yourself. And it wasn't until Monday that I had a nurse actually offer to help wash my hair. So I had gone 2 days with not washing my hair, and for me that was a long time. I felt grimy. I felt terrible. Sunday we got through, like normal. I wasn't allowed to get up. Had family come to visit. My son's dad chose a lot of the time not to stay with me. He found the hospital accommodations uncomfortable, so he would go home to the apartment with the excuse that he was cleaning or something like that, which was fine. He wasn't there, and I didn't care one way or the other because all I was doing was laying in bed and watching TV and resting. That's all I was allowed to do. Um, they gave me tons, steroids for my son's lungs and magnesium for I don't even remember what. They gave me a whole bunch of stuff. Um, then by Monday throughout the day was fine. But Monday afternoon, I had the nurse that offered to wash my hair. Her name is Colleen. I will never forget Colleen. Um, it was about to be shift change. And I remember her telling me, she said, "I'm about to go. Do you need anything before I go?" And I said, "Well, I feel a little crampy, just a little bit." And she's like, "Okay, well, I'll get you something." So, she leaves and then she comes back and she's like, "Okay, the doctor wants us to check your cervix before we give you something." I said, "Okay, that's fine." So she checks. And then poor Colleen, she was very petite. She said, "You know what? I can't reach your cervix. Let me go get another nurse." I said, "It's fine." So she went and got another nurse. The nurse checked my cervix and I had went from a 5 to a 7. And they weren't anticipating I was going to go to 10. My son was double footling breech, so he was head up, feet down, and not prepared to be born at all. So at that point, they said, "You're 7 centimeters. Your son is breech. You're having a C-section. There is no other option. We're doing this, and we're doing it now." My son's dad was, of course, at the apartment. He wasn't there with me, so I called him. I said, "You need to come back to the hospital. We're having the baby." Hung up, called my mom, said, "Mom, you need to come to the hospital. We're having the baby." And then I called work, said, "Hey, just letting you know, we're having the baby." So I told everybody I needed to tell. I talked to everyone I needed to talk to. And then after that, it was getting prepped and ready. Now, I was going to have a C-section. Like I said, my son was breech. Um, so that being said, I knew I was going to have a C-section. But again, I still couldn't sit up out of bed. So what they had me do was they told me, "You have two options." They said, "You're either going to be able to get an epidural so that you can do your C-section, or we are going to have to put you under general anesthesia." It all depended on if they could get to do the epidural. So I'm, of course, trying to process all this now because the apartment's not too far from the hospital. My son's dad was there pretty quickly. When he came in, uh, he was, I guess, mortified would be the word. Because initially going in, the neonatologist came in. They said, "You're 25 weeks, and your baby is going to be 25 weeks. With a baby born 25 weeks, this is the stuff that could happen." And they gave us a long list of things that could go wrong. Your baby could be born blind. Your baby could be born deaf. They could have heart problems, lung problems, stomach problems. They could, so many different things could be wrong. Now, me as a mother, all I could hear was, "My baby needs help. Help my baby however you can, regardless of if they're blind, deaf. It doesn't matter. Just help my baby." For my son's dad, all he heard was bad, bad, bad. So he thought, "Okay, well, if you're saying that this is going to happen to her baby, if the baby is early, then don't take the baby early." He couldn't understand. And I think it was mental illness on top of mental incapacity. He just could not understand the trade-off. If we don't deliver, then you run the risk of infection, then you run the risk of sepsis, then you run the risk of fetal death. And he didn't understand that, and I didn't have time to explain it to him. Nobody did. So he comes in and immediately he's mad. He thinks that the doctors are making this decision because they're trying to kill us for whatever reason. Like I said, hears things, sees things that aren't there. So I tried to calm him down as best I could. And the nurse said, "You need to worry about you." I said, "Okay, that's fine." Now, the rule of thumb is with a C-section, if you have the epidural, one person can be in with you. If you do not have the epidural and you go under general anesthesia, then nobody can be in there with you. So they took me into the OR, they prepped me and got me ready. The anesthesiologist had me lay on my side and then curl my back. Um, and I remember the needle was pretty big. And I remember feeling the needle scraping against the bones in my spine. I remember um, several times he tried, and he tried diligently, and my back wouldn't take. It just wouldn't take. So I said, "I'm sorry. I can't get into that cavity. We're going to have to put you under." So I knew at that point I was going to go through delivery unconscious and alone. That to me was hard. But at this point, it's fight or flight. I needed to save my baby. I needed to give him every chance possible to survive. So I said, "Okay, that's fine." And they knocked me out. They got me prepped. They got me ready. The anesthesiologist got the thing on my face, and I remember asking them, how long is it going to take? They said it'll feel like a minute, and sure enough, it did. I recall waking up, and I could see the lights passing. Whenever you're being pushed down the hallway. Um, so I remember the lights, and I remember being warm. They cover you with all these blankets, and they wheeled me into the room, and my mom was there, my dad was there, my aunt and my cousin were also planning on visiting, so they were already there as well. um, and at this point, I still had a feeling that everything was going to be okay, and me and my son's dad, we were gonna make it, we were gonna be okay. I knew he was panicking, but I still didn't think anything significantly bad had happened. um, and I asked my mom, his name was Ryan. I said, "Mom, where's Ryan?" And she said, "He's downstairs." I said, "Okay, well, can you tell him that I love him?" And that was the last bit of that life that I had before that was just shattered. Um, Immediately after that, the social worker came in and said, "Miss Rodriguez, I'm so and so, I'm social work, and we have a problem with Dad." And this is when I learned that, while I was under, he was causing quite a bit of a disturbance, yelling at doctors, yelling at nurses, yelling down the halls, screaming that the doctor ripped the baby out of me and we were both dead, and yelling at my mom yelling at him, and then him taking off, and then him coming back. He had a mental break. He lost it. Um, and I could understand that. And again, going back, I am somebody that inherently wants to help. I want to help people. I want to be there for them. But there was a shift. I was, ready to help him in any way that he needed, because I knew that he had the capability to be better. Whether that's with therapy, whether that's with medication, whatever it could be, I could help him. But there was a shift because I wasn't just with him, I was a mother now. I have a son that I need to take care of. So at that point, it wasn't, I can help you. I can help you be better. I have a baby that is 15 weeks early. He needs me, and he's my priority now. You are an adult, and as much as I've tried to help you, you have not taken the help from me, and I can't do anything else for you. I have to do what's best for my son. And I understand it's his son too, but he did not have the capacity to understand a child's needs, an infant's needs. So at this point, um, I talked with a social worker, and we kind of decided, what, we're just gonna change. They have like an allowance of like who you don't want to visit with you, where they say, okay, this person's here to see you, you don't want to see them, we'll turn them away. And I had to do a flip-flop list where instead of listing who I did not want there, I just listed who I did. So it was a very small list. My mom, my dad, my brothers, and my coworkers were the only ones that were allowed to visit. Everyone else was barred from my room. So they could not come in. um, my son was born May 6th, 2013, at 4:31 p.m. He was 1 pound, 15 ounces, 13 inches long, and he was perfect in absolutely every way. Um, I did not foresee myself becoming a preemie mom, but I was. And not just a regular preemie, he was a micro preemie. He was very, very, very small. Um, and that was very hard because dealing with his dad and then deciding, what, this is it. I'm going to do this by myself. After 5 years, I left him and I did it by myself. I raised my son as a single mother. I did have the help of my parents, thank God. But I did do it by myself. I made the decisions. I called the shots, and that was all up to me. Um, so he was in the hospital. Um, in the NICU. He was in level 3 NICU for a few weeks. Then they moved him to level 2, where he was growing, and he just had to grow. And collectively, he was in the NICU for 82 days, and we did count day by day by day. And it was a very long. I'm not going to say it was hard. It was a long road, but it wasn't hard, so to speak. My son was blessed. He did not have any of the problems that the neonatologist had told us he could have. He didn't have heart problems, lung problems. He didn't need any kind of surgeries or any kind of early intervention. 8.5 years later, and the only thing is he's got ADD. That's pretty much it. So he did really well in the hospital. The nurses loved him. He was such a good baby, always so happy, a good eater, a good sleeper, good pooper. He always did really good. So I just waited those 82 days until I got to take him home. Um, so yeah, that's in a nutshell the story of the birth of my son. That's kind of where becoming a mom for me started. Um, and after my son was born, being a preemie mom, it kind of became my persona. Um, where, after something like that happens to you, you obviously want to bring awareness to it, and you want to let people know about it, and you want to have your voice heard. So after my son was born, I did join, preemie mom groups, and I tried to learn as much as I could. I tried to share as much as I could. And then I tried to teach other people that were kind of walking in my same shoes. Um, I learned a lot. Um, I learned a lot about preemies, not just about my own son, but about other people's as well. About things that weren't even related to my son, but it was related to so many other preemies, whether that be IUGR or NEC or just different things that other preemie moms had gone through. I learned. Now, 8.5 years later, I I do still kind of delve into the preemie mom universe, but it's become less of a part of kind of who I identify as. I will always be a preemie mom, but I don't use it as a crutch. I don't use it as a central talking point. A lot of the times, even my mom will still do it. And she loves her grandbaby, I swear she does, but she does use it a lot where if we're talking about behavior or anything like that, she'll say, but he was preemie. I said, yes, mom, he was preemie, but he can't use that as an excuse for the rest of his life because even though he was preemie, he is still on average like any other kid. After he was born, preemies, they'll give them about 2 years to grow, to catch up to their own age group, about 2 years. He caught up to his age group by 6 months. And that's saying something because whenever he left the hospital at almost 3 months, he was 6 pounds, 5 ounces. So in 3 months, he jumped from newborn size to 6 month size. He hit a growth spurt. But at this point, he's got no long lasting problems. We take him to the eye doctor to see if maybe because I know they have a problem with ROP, retinopathy of prematurity. Um, he hasn't had any problems with that. And we take him regularly to get his eyes tested. Um, and his eyes have been fine. So he hasn't had those problems. Early on, he did have a problem with asthma. They weren't sure if it was due to prematurity or if it was due to, at one point, he had pneumonia. So it could have been either or. But as of right now, 8.5 years later, he's completely normal. He's GT classes, so he's very bright. He's very smart. He's a kind boy. He's very considerate. He loves dinosaurs and trucks and sharks, and he's your run-of-the-mill boy. Um, so yeah, that's the story in a nutshell of my firstborn son and becoming a mom to him. Um, with that, I'll kind of leave it. Probably next time we'll start in probably on, I guess, single motherhood, which to say the least was a whole nother journey in and of itself. But I'm glad I got to share and I appreciate y'all's time. See you next time.